Hello and welcome to this recording on assessment readiness for the NCFE technical qualifications of digital health, healthcare science, science and education in early years, where we're going to explore strategies for core exam and ESP excellence. So let's begin with a core assessment overview. So here on the screen we have the three health and science core component external assessments overviews. I will highlight in a few seconds where the differences are for education in early years and for the digital qual. So for the health and science qual, we have, and as for all quals, there are two exam papers. Paper A for health and science covers all of A content. Paper B covers all of B1 and B2. Each of the health and science TQs papers last for 2.5 hours. The employer set project is externally set with employers and externally marked by NCFE. Now, unlike its name might suggest, the employer set project is not sat on placement. The employer set project is a controlled assessment within an assessment window beginning around about the May of every year. And the reason it's called externally set is that employers were used for industry standards to explore what core skills students should be able to demonstrate both vocationally and if they move into higher education. So you can see there's a slight difference here with education early years. So they don't have section A and B's in their specifications. How theirs are covered are as elements, and this is the same for digital. So education early years covers, paper A covers elements 1 to 6, paper B covers elements 7 to 12. And you can see the same here for digital as well. The other difference with digital education in early years to the health and science TQs is that their papers are only 2 hours each. Now, both the ESP and the exams has a limited retakes in the autumn and the summer series, and these retakes can be completed within 2 years after completion of the T-level. Now, some really important documents to highlight. So on the qualification page, a lot of you may have seen these tabs. Now, most people would probably go to the support material tabs because this is where the specification is, the assessment materials where the live papers are, and teaching materials such as schemes of works are. But actually the qual details at the very bottom, if you scroll down this tab, you have access to 3 key documents. You have the key date schedule or KDS, the regulations for conduct of external assessments, and the qualification specific instructions for delivery or QSID. Now the key date schedule is updated every year around about July, and we always do 2 years in advance. So it's a really good document to understand when your assessment windows are, where there are advanced assessment materials available for you, or if there are advanced assessment materials available for the students. The regulation for conduct of external assessment contains generic instructions for assessment, such as secure storage, invigilation arrangements, starting the assessment and students arriving late, for example. And the QSID breaks down requirements for each assessment in each qualification, such as whether it is supervised or invigilated, whether computer or internet is required, whether there's an online assessment available, and even date and time or window. So let's explore the T-level core exams. So here on the screen, you can see the A1, 2, and 3. Now, there are slight differentiations in the language. Obviously, this is an example for health and science, but they are pretty much the same as in it's that demonstrate, apply, analyze, and evaluate hierarchy. What you can see is the weighting that each of the AOs have, the assessment objectives have. And as you can see, the majority of the assessment objectives weighting is to A1 and AO2. With AO2 being one of the highest weighted across all of the qualification. This shows how important it is that the students understand the knowledge effectively and apply it effectively. with evaluation obviously a key component of that next stage up in the Bloom's taxonomy. So what is an assessment objective? So assessment objectives refer to the skills that you need to be demonstrated in response to questions, usually in an examination. So we highlighted already the weighting of the EOs. So what are they in a bit more detail? So again, these differ slightly from the contexts for the different quals, but what you can see here is those command words, these key areas that your students need to develop to be successful in these different AOs. So demonstrating of knowledge in AO1, application of knowledge in AO2, being able to analyze and evaluate and make informed judgments. These are the key areas that your students need to develop in order to effectively succeed in demonstrating these AOs. So let's explore an example of these question types in a bit more detail. So this list isn't exhaustive, but you can see an example of command verbs that will maybe match the different types of questions. So multiple choice will be things like choose, give, identify, short written answers, could be apply, compare, describe, and with extended response questions or ERQs being those more higher levels, evaluate, assess, analyze, and reflect. So as we can see here, we have the Bloom's taxonomy, and we have utilised the Bloom's taxonomy within our teaching and delivery to help students really understand what it is that they are learning and able to consolidate that knowledge. So think about these AOs in relation to the Bloom's taxonomy. So when you're exploring different ways to get your students to demonstrate and consolidate knowledge, remember AO1's that understand, remember. AO2 is that application, with the AO3 that evaluate and analyse. So setting clear objectives for lessons, creating pre-consolidation formative assessment tasks linked to the Bloom's taxonomy will also help support the AO1, AO2 and AO3. So now let's explore some key takeaways from the Chief Examiner's report on the core exams, especially around areas such as the extended response questions. So to begin with, ERQs require students to demonstrate a thorough understanding of key concepts, theories and principles relevant to the question. It's essential to showcase a solid foundation of knowledge in the subject matter. Students are expected to showcase their critical thinking skills by analysing information, evaluating different perspectives or arguments, and demonstrating a logical approach to problem solving. Practical application of theoretical knowledge is crucial in ERQs. Students should be able to apply their understanding of real-world scenarios, demonstrating the relevance and applicability of their knowledge. Clear and coherent communication is essential in ERQs. Students should articulate their ideas clearly, using appropriate terminology and structure to convey their understanding effectively. ERQs often require students to delve into complex issues and provide insightful analysis. It is important to demonstrate the ability to explore different viewpoints and offer well-supported conclusions. Students should be able to synthesize information from various sources, integrating ideas to develop a comprehensive and well-rounded argument in their responses. Providing evidence, examples, or data to support arguments is key in ERQs. Students should justify their reasoning with sound rationale and logical explanations. It's essential to maintain relevance and focus in ERQ responses, addressing the question promptly, directly, and avoiding tangents or irrelevant information. Responses should be presented in a clear, organised and coherent manner with a logical structure that facilitates understanding for the reader. And proficiency in written communication skills, including grammar, spelling, punctuation, and overall presentation, is crucial to ensure the responses are well received by the examiner. By meeting these expectations, students can excel in ERQs and demonstrate their comprehensive understanding and analytical abilities effectively. So what are ERQs, or extended response questions? They're a crucial part of the T-level exams. These questions are not merely about recalling facts, they're designed to assess students' ability to think critically and deeply about the subject matter. ERQs serve a specific purpose. They go beyond rote memorization and challenge students to analyse, evaluate, and summarise information. By doing so, they assess students' higher order thinking skills, which are essential for success in further education and the workplace. So there are various types of ERQ students might encounter. They may align to one specific or multiple depending on the command words. So analytical ERQs will present students with scenarios or case studies, prompting students to provide reasoned arguments or solutions. Evaluative ERQs will require students to weigh different perspectives or theories within the subject area and justify their opinions. Applicative ERQs will ask students to apply their knowledge to real-world situation and explain the potential implications or outcomes. Comparative ERQs will task students with comparing and contrasting different theories, methodologies, or approaches. And finally, significance ERQs will prompt students to discuss the significance or relevance of certain concepts or ideas within the subject. So let's explore some top tips for ERQs and QWC. Firstly, understanding the question is key. Take time to dissect the question, identify key terms, and understand what's being asked. Next, the students need to plan a response before diving into writing. Outline main points and the structure of the answer to ensure clarity and coherence. When it comes to QWC, clarity is paramount. Use clear and concise language and structure the response with an introduction, main body, and conclusion. Support points with evidence and examples. Whether it's theories, case studies, or real-world examples, backing up arguments strengthens the response. The students need to engage in critical thinking and analysis. Evaluate different perspectives, theories, or implications of the points to demonstrate depth of understanding. And lastly, students need to review and edit the response. Check for clarity, coherence, and relevance, and edit for grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors. Taking the time to refine the answer can significantly enhance its quality. So now we're going to explore measuring progress. So in regards to, first of all, understanding how the marking criteria is applied. Now at this recording, I will share the link to access to all of our TQs playlists on YouTube. On there are full ERQ videos available, bite-sized videos that review this content specific to your qual. And also explores the grade age student exemplar and how that student achieved success in the different bands. So when exploring this example, it is to the context of health, but the other ERQs for your qual are available in your playlists. So marking guidance for ERQs can be found on pages 2 and 3 of all core papers mark schemes. ERQ mark schemes consist of a marking grid with a band-based descriptors along with indicative content. A response should be marked holistically, but you might first identify any points that are credit-worthy by using the indicative content. Indicative content is reflective of a response that may be given by a student and is closely aligned with the specification. The AO2 and AO3 points often link together and then further linked to a couple of AO1 points. Points that are technically correct and relevant to the scenario, but are not a direct match to the points in the indicative content can be credited. For example, a student may refer to the fact that COPD could be caused by a combination of factors in the response to this question. This would be relevant and technically accurate, therefore credited. A response should be marked holistically. Read the student's response as a whole and decide which band the AO1 technically content identified fits into. Do the same for AO2 and AO3 content. A best fit approach is then applied. For example, the highlighted box shows that a response covers AO1 content, which is accurate in detail, but AO2 and AO3 content that is mostly effective and relevant. In this response, in this situation, the response would be put into band 2, as this is where most of the response has been placed, but award a higher mark within the band to reflect the AO1 content, reaching band 3. this is likely to achieve 6 marks so far. All responses are marked for the benefit of the student whenever possible. Finally, we should decide where in the grid the quality of written communication should be placed. In much the same way as before, read the answer as a whole, decide on a mark, then add this mark to the 6 marks awarded in the previous slide. So next we're going to explore the general competency framework. So this applies to all T-levels and can be found in the specification. This is a really key component because the students, as we know, are assessed on maths and English skills in their core exams, but also in the employer set project, they are also marked, get marks for maths, English and digital competencies. So these are really great document in the spec that you can really utilise within your schemes of work and in your planning and get the students really understand competencies that are valuable both in industry but also within their assessment. There's also a mapping of the general competency within the specification. So you can see this example here from health. So they have mapped the different competencies to year 2, as you can see from support and healthcare core onwards. But you can see in the first column, the core skills are also mapped, and you will see that some areas will duplicate. So when you are, say, for example, teaching and delivering, say, core skill 2 to prepare the students for the employer set project, you can find out which English, maths and digital competencies are mapped to that core skill. And then from there, you'll be able to understand what you need your students to develop. These are then also mapped to each of the tasks as well in the employer set project. So you can see that clear link between general competencies, core skills, to where they will then demonstrate those within the employer set project. So why are the general competency framework important? Well, as I mentioned earlier, they need to be competent to enter their industry and their placement. They are also assessed in the core and synoptic assessments. Students have been scoring low in these in recent T-level assessment series. And further, Ofsted inspection questioned a student on how are your maths and English skills being developed while studying the T-level. So having the general competencies part of your delivery and your students' understanding and awareness will help support in all these areas. So now I'm going to give an overview of the different ESPs across the TQs. To further delve into the different ESPs and their tasks, like the bite-sized videos for the ERQs, there are bite-sized videos for the employer set project, taking each task in turn, discussing what is done well, and discussing a high-grade student in relation to those tasks. You again will find those in your YouTube channels, which again will be shared at the end. So much like their exams, there are AOs being assessed within the employer set project. However, as you can see, there are 5 in the employer set project. This is to include the use of English, Maths and Digital for AO4 and the realisation of a project outcome for AO5. Again, AO2 has the greatest weighting. Not only is this the application of core knowledge, but this is also the opportunity for the students to apply their core skills. So here are the overview of the core skills. As I say, I'm not going to go into these into great detail. You will find these within your TQ playlists. But what I want you to notice as we go through is actually a lot of the core skills, they are similar across the different TQs. Things that are vocationally relevant, such as reflecting, communication, team working. These are obviously key skills that employers are looking for from their students and their future workforce. But also within each of the different qualifications, you will find vocationally specific core skills. So for demonstrating person-centered care skills for health, creativity, innovation, project managing for science, similar to healthcare science. Then education in early years, we've abbreviated these a little because they are a lot longer for the education early years, but you can see that there are, yes, working with others, so team working, communicating, but again, they are very key vocational, such as use of formative and summative assessment. Again, this carries through into DSS and DBS, with the key ones for the digital core skills being working with stakeholders. Here we have just a snapshot of the different employer set project tasks. What I want you to be able to do, because I know that the employer set project can feel a little daunting, but I just want you to look at the tasks without all the logistical sides around it and explore these and think about these in relation to, well, have I done these before? Have I set these as formative assessment tasks within my delivery before I've even done anything with late T-level, so within other qualifications? And I can hope that you can clearly see here that these are tasks that you have got your students to complete before for assessments, formative assessments, and you know how to develop skills for your students in these areas. What you don't have maybe is the full knowledge of how the T-level has packaged this up and how this will then run in relation to the qualification. So I hope you can feel confident that for health, you've had presentations, you've done role plays, you've done written reports with your students. For science, you've done research or literature reviews, planning a project, presentations. Although slightly different for this one is for the science is actually the students do a scientific A2 poster, which is great because this aligns with further education more. And higher education, but also still works on those students' presentation skills. Again, healthcare science, peer discussions, presentation, research, but maybe what might be slightly new is the quality improvement report, which is that vocationally relevant. Through to education in early years, getting students to create support plans, activity plans, having discussions, presentations. And then within the digital sector, you hopefully can see clear areas here that you have built your students' confidence. And there may just be slightly new ones, such as reflective evaluation or role playing, which may not have been within your delivery before. So let's look at these in a little bit more detail, talking about that T-level package that I was talking about in relation to these tasks. So here at a glance, you can see the Health Employer Set project. So I'm not going to read all of these out, and definitely go to the employer set project bite-sized videos and your guidance to fully understand what is required from assessment procedures. But you can see that most of the assessments take about 2 hours. There's clear structure around what the students can have access to, so they can only have access to the internet, for example, in the preparation task. It has clear indication of what is available from previous tasks, so what they can have copies of, and this should really help you identify that full journey through the employer set project. You can see the same here with healthcare science, so please feel free to pause and explore this as an overview, so nice at a glance here. So again, you can see those 5 tasks, how they follow on with each other with clear indication of timing. Employer set project for the science is similar. The only thing that's different is that science, for every task, they also have 30 minutes included in those times there that I have there. So for example, task 1, 3 hours for researching the strategy, with then 0.5 of an hour, 30 minutes available for the students to complete their project diary. For education in early years, again, very similar. The only thing that's different for education in early years is their pre-project research and submit for review. That is the only assessment within NCFE technical quals or task that is done before the assessment window. So every other task in the employer set project for education early years, so task 1A and onwards, are done within the assessment window, like health, healthcare science, science, and digital quals. But the education early years is the only one that has something that happens before that 2-week assessment window. And finally, here we have DSS. Again, this one is slightly different for DSS. Again, they have pre-release info for staff, but there's actually very clear days available for DSS. So week 1 has very specific days that they need to complete tasks within, and then week 2 is very similar. Now, I would like to set you a task that you can do. Now, this example is relation to a reflection task that the students do within the employer set projects across all TQs. But this can be amended and added and utilised. I think this is a great task to do as teachers, but it's also a great task that you can then set your students. So with this task is you get the chief examiner report, and in there, sorry, the grade A student, for example, exemplar, graded exemplar. In there you have the chief examiner report, the briefs, the marking criteria, everything is within that grade A student work. Analyze the past paper first of all, review the marking criteria, then explore the graded examples, yeah, and looking at strategies for improvement. And then really reflect on what is best evidence-based reflection, the importance of referencing previous tasks and reflection, and then really feedback that to the students. So definitely pause, explore this strategy. It's a really useful one for the reflection task. But as I say, I think this is a task that then can be utilised and amended for you to do, and then for you to do with your students. So let's explore some best practice and common strategies. First of all, let's begin with, what do your students already know? How well are they able to apply study skills? So thinking about your students coming from GCSE, what are their starting points? What is their level of written communication and verbal communication? How academic literate they are? Are they able to apply techniques in exam situations? And do they have experience of revision strategies that work? Or do they just use cue cards? Top tip is to set an independent study activities to support your planning and set expectations. Then next in the stage is to consider the following. So exploring the content and the structure of the assessments, and contemplating what your students' potential experiences and starting points may be. What areas do you feel students will need support with to help them succeed in the exams in ESP? So very specifically, not just around short answers, easy answers, but do they know how to revise? Do they know how to apply to the command words? How well do they write? How good is their spelling and grammar? How good is their maths competencies? Lots of different factors to explore. So how do we then measure that? So we've considered our starting place, we've considered the areas that the students may need to demonstrate and improve on to succeed. Well, formative assessments can help both teachers and students understand what needs to be learned and how this can be achieved. Formative assessment is a really important part of the T level. They will need really strong, robust formative assessment, as well as general on-the-moment formative assessment during the learning process as well. This is to support that the students are only assessed at the end of each assessment, each year. So during the learning process, formative assessment can identify students' progress as well as highlighting gaps in their knowledge and understanding, therefore giving the teacher useful insight as to what feedback and instruction can be provided to continue move learners forward. Formative assessment takes place during the learning process. It continually informs the teacher and student as to how learning can move forward as it is happening. This is different to summative assessment, which focuses on the evaluation of student learning at the end of the process. So here are just some examples of formative assessment methods that you can use. These will allow for a mix of consolidation, on the spot, in learning moments, and even moments subsequently after lessons. So for example, independent tasks. So there's a really great range of different types of formative assessment that you can use within your learning and delivery. Next, I wanted to highlight, just similar to what we highlighted in the extended response question, key areas to support your students in regards to core skills. So what I've done is I've just picked out some cross TQ strategies for core skills. So core skills that were relevant to multiple TQs. So first we have researching strategy. So teach students how to create a structured research plan that includes defining questions, identifying sources, and setting deadlines for completing different parts of their research. Provide guidance on distinguishing credible sources, particularly in healthcare and science fields, and using databases like PubMed, Google Scholar, or industry-specific journals. Encourage students to keep detailed notes and use tools like Zotero or EndNote for organising their research and citations. For communication strategies, emphasise the importance of tailoring communication to the audience, whether it's peers, employers, or external stakeholders. Role-playing exercises can help students practice. Student, Teach students how to switch between formal written communication, so such as reports or emails, and verbal presentations, focusing on clarity and conciseness in both. Encourage the use of peer review and feedback to refine communication skills using tools like Microsoft Teams for asynchronous discussions. For team working strategies, help students understand the importance of clear role definitions within a team and how to assign tasks based on individual strengths. Introduce students to collaborative tools such as Trello, Slack, or Teams for managing tasks and communications within the team. Teach basic resolution strategies to help students manage disagreement and ensure smooth teamwork. For problem-solving strategies, provide students with a structured approach to problem solving, such as the ideal method, so identify, define, explore, act, look back. Use case studies from relevant industries to practice applying problem-solving skills in realistic scenarios. And facilitate group brainstorming sessions where students can collaboratively solve hypothetical problems related to their technical qualification. And for a reflective evaluation strategy, encourage students to maintain reflective journals where they regularly document what they're learned, challenges faced, and how they've overcome them. Provide a set of questions that guide students through the reflection process, helping them to critically evaluate their progress and learning outcomes. And facilitate group reflection sessions where students can share their experiences and learn from each other. Now let's explore some task-specific strategies. So starting with presentation strategies, conduct workshops that focus on developing effective presentation skills, including the use of visual aids, storytelling techniques, and engaging with the audience. Provide opportunities for students to practice their presentations in front of peers or mentors with constructive feedback to improve their delivery. For risk management strategies, introduce students to risk assessment tools and frameworks such as SWOT analysis and teach them how to apply these in their projects. Use scenario-based learning where students must identify potential risks in a project and develop mitigation strategies. Ensure students know how to document their risk assessments clearly and effectively. For creativity and innovation strategy, introduce design thinking as a method to foster creativity and innovation, guiding students through stages like ideation, prototyping, and testing. Showcase examples of creativity and innovation from industry leaders to inspire students and provide practical context. And teach brainstorming techniques such as mind mapping or the 6 thinking hats method to encourage diverse thinking approaches. So you've now created your initial assessment. You've explored areas the students will need to develop. You've explored formative assessment that will help support those specific areas. But what are your students' success criteria? So how would you then measure success in each of those areas that the students need to develop? So from communication, so skill specific like communication to assessment specific like evaluation. How would they be linked to knowledge, skills, or behaviours? How often would you measure them? How would they be smart and student-centred? How would you measure success? So let's explore formative assessment a little bit further in relation to feedback. So here we have Effective Feedback by Nicol and McFarlane, Deck 2006. And if you Google him, you'll be able to find his book around effective feedback. And this is really about this cycle of how feedback helps clarify good performance, It facilitates the development of self-assessment, how it delivers high quality information to students about the learning, encourages teachers and hear dialogue around learning, and encourages positive motivational beliefs and self-esteem. So definitely explore some further reading around this. Uh, so how do we make feedback actionable? And this is another key area. So this is about it being practical, specific. As I mentioned earlier, that success criteria. Is it smart? Is it clear and specific? How is it actionable? How How are you giving constructive suggestions? How are the students accountable for this? And where are you going to continually to support them? By following these strategies, you can help students understand how to improve and take concrete steps towards achieving their learning goals. So finally, we have support available for your delivery. So as I mentioned earlier around those employer set project and ERQ bite-sized videos, those are just some of the videos that we have available within your playlist. Please go to the link below at the bottom of the screen and find your playlist, and you can see a picture there of what your playlist looks like. We also have best practice networks. So we've just had one in October this year, 24, for education early years and the healthcare science and science best practice network. So we had our first live session and our next one will be in December. So you can join us through the events page, which you can find the link there, and sign up for our live ones. And as well as signing up for our lives, you will then be also added to our Microsoft Teams page, where you can also continue to collaborate and discuss asynchronously with each other and other providers as well. You continue to get support on our provider hub through your business executive as well. And you have curriculum consultation with me and the rest of our team at Provider Development to support you in your first 2 years of delivery. So this is one-to-one support. You also have a dedicated email for customer service, which is tlevelsupport@ncfe.org.uk. So thank you very much for listening today. I hope that you feel that you have some strategies to support you and your students in assessment readiness. Thank you.